Welcome back to the Paitan Ramen channel. Today we're going out on a limb and attempting to merge two of my all-time favorite flavors, coffee and ramen. Lotus Feast and I worked hard for about a month on this recipe to make sure it was smooth, balanced, and decadent. I know this seems like a bold and potentially bizarre flavor combination, but it turned out delicious, and I'm so excited to share the entire process with you. I thought for a long time that coffee would pair well with ramen for a variety of reasons. First of all, coffee and ramen share an emphasis on aroma. Coffee notes are typically roasty, rich, and floral, and the same can be said for the aroma oils that you find on top of a quality bowl of ramen. Second, coffee beans are roasted for an ever so slightly charred flavor, which is akin to the way we will often smoke or burn elements for a bowl of ramen. For this bowl specifically, I toasted up some rye flour so that it would play nice with the coffee flavors. Finally, coffee is prolifically paired with dairy products in the smorgasbord of different concoctions you can find at millions of coffee shops around the world. Those dairy products have fats that really blunt the bitterness and acidity of coffee, and since ramen is so fatty in the first place, I thought it could act out some of the same functional purpose of dairy for coffee. I started this bowl with a really fatty Paitan broth made of stewing hens. Stewing hens are a form of poultry that lay eggs for a lifetime and then die in old age. The result is a carcass that doesn't provide great meat, but does contribute deep and ultra-rich chicken flavors to a broth. I emulsified this Paitan over a 20-hour boil and then strained over a cheesecloth. I didn't separate out any fats during the process to make sure that the coffee had a nice warm place to snuggle in during the final assembly. Broth complete. For the Tare, I wanted coffee to be the star of the show while maintaining a respectful balance of classic ramen flavors. Over low heat, I combined 1 cup of decaf dark roast coffee, 1/4 cup of koikuchi shoyu for rich, sweet notes, 1/4 cup of mirin for nostalgic sweet notes, 3/4 teaspoon of demerara sugar for some coffee shop style sweetness, 1 teaspoon sea salt for sharpness, 1/4 teaspoon pepper for dimension, and 1/4 teaspoon ginger paste as a bright note to balance things out a touch. I increased the heat to a low simmer and let the Tare reduce by about 2/3. Then it was ready to serve for the final assembly. Tare complete. The aroma oils were critical to pulling everything together, and I decided to make 1 coffee aroma oil and 1 lavender aroma oil to act as an olfactory bridge between the coffee and ramen flavor dimensions. For the coffee oil, I lightly fried 1 tablespoon of caffeinated coffee beans in 1/2 cup of canola oil for about 5 minutes, and then transferred to a high-powered blender, which combined everything into a homogeneous mixture. For the lavender oil, I combined 2 tablespoons of dried lavender flowers with 1 handful of blueberries and 1 handful of blackberries in 1/2 cup of canola oil. I fried everything for about 5 minutes until all the berries had broken down, and then I transitioned everything into a mortar and pestle to fully break down all of the solid components into the oil. I strained out any large bits into a metal sieve, and then both of my aroma oils were ready to party. Aroma oils complete. For the noodles, I designed a 33% low hydration noodle that could soak up lots of flavor from the broth, tare, and oils. I included a toasted rye flour adjunct that was part of the welcome wagon for the coffee, and then mixed, pressed, and rolled out these noodles using my new low-waste noodle fabrication process. These noodles had a vital wheat gluten adjunct and low hydration for the sake of firmness, so I limited myself to 2 laminations to keep the gluten bonds nice and tight. I cut them using a 3mm wide cutter and aged them at room temperature for 2 days. Noodles complete. The protein for the bowl was a marinated baked chicken breast to put a bow on everything. I created a marinade out of 1/2 cup of decaf dark roast coffee, 1 teaspoon shoyu, 1 teaspoon mirin, 1/2 teaspoon demerara sugar, and a healthy grind of salt and pepper. I marinated the chicken in the fridge for 3 hours and then baked at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. Protein complete. At this point, everything was ready to go. I started with 50 milliliters of tare, then 500 milliliters of broth. I topped with the noodles, then the chicken, followed by 1 generous tablespoon each of the coffee and lavender aroma oils. Finally, I garnished with some of the broth that I had foamed up in the blender as a cheeky nod to lattes with a delicate coffee bean garnish on top. This bowl was visually satisfying and flavorfully complex, but the best part about these worlds colliding was the aroma. Talk about being transported to my happy place. This was something else. My nose was in paradise. The noodles had that classic toasty flavor that many of us know and love, and it was lockstep with the slightly bitter, deeply roasty Tare. Every slurp of broth came with the full flavor of 2 aroma oils working together, and in all of these flavors, the baked chicken, of all things, was the intermission you could retreat to if everything else was too stimulating. Lotus Feast also created a post with his presentation of the same recipe, so be sure to go check out his full review on Instagram. I devoured every last bite of this ramen, and then said my goodbyes to a long overdue passion project that will live on forever as a wonderful smelling memory. Thanks for joining me for my first video of 2023. Got any flavor combinations on your mind? Let me know in the comments and I just might give them a try. I'll see you next time. Please consider subscribing for more.